Good morning, folks. You are listening to WDNA 88.9 FM, and this is a UM Frost Jazz Hour. It comes to you every Thursday at 11 a.m. And what's an honor and a privilege to have Richard Todd with us here in the studio today. It's the second part of the program featuring the music and interview with the program director, horn instructor at Frost, and jazz artist Richard Todd. Among the artists, Richard has collaborated with Aerosmith, Paul McCartney, Andrea Bocelli, Ray Charles, McCoy Tyner, Celine Dion, among others. So if you listen to the previous show, which you can always go back and listen to on wdna.org, if you missed the first one, well, you're in for a treat today because we're going to touch upon a few of the stories. And for me, I love story time. But before we get into it, here is a tune off of one of Richard Todd's records. This tune is entitled Night Walk. was Night Walk off of the debut recording with RCM. We're here in the studio live today, and we're so excited to bring you so much music and interviews with Richard Todd. That tune, Night Walk, is a tune by Steve Hufster, trumpeter and arranger. And so I'm asking Richard, this kind of has a Latin feel, where was it recorded? And he says to me, well, Steve used to play with Poncho Sanchez. So that's a little bit of the history behind that tune. And up next, we'll be playing Take the A Train. But before we do, that tune is off the record What Headphones. So can you tell us a little bit about this tune just before we play it?
Yeah, I can. I've been very fortunate in my life to have touched a lot of different types of musical styles and genres. I have had a very long career as a classical musician, which led to playing in a number of wonderful chamber music festivals around the world, and one particular chamber music festival in La Jolla, California. I ended up meeting Andre Previn, and we performed a fantastic piece by Francis Poulenc for piano and wind quintet, which I later on recorded with him for the RCA label. But I also kind of dropped off one of my jazz records to him. I says, "Look, I'm a big fan of yours, and so on, and I know you kind of run the gamut of everything, and here, I want you to have this. This is my gift to you." And he during the festival, while we were all there, he said, I listened to your CD. It's ridiculous. He says, it's just, I love it. I absolutely love it. So I'm at home, and I get this phone call from this woman in New York who's kind of overseeing this thing. Andre Previn's doing a jazz record next weekend, and he's wondering if you're free, if you'd like to be a part of it. He's producing it with Phil Ramone, and they thought they would do the normal kind of like trumpet, trombone, saxophone thing, and Andre thought about it. He says, "No, let's do trumpet, trombone, and horn. Let's see if Rick's available." And it turns out I was, and so I end up in New York the next weekend, and I walk into the recording studio. It was a place called the Manhattan Center, and I walk in, and the first people I see are Andre, Warren Vacher on cornet, Jim Pugh on trombone, Mundell Lowe on guitar, Ray Brown on bass, and Grady Tate on drums. And the first thing that came to my mind is, what am I doing here? I am way out of my league. And we ended up really kind of having a good time and recorded, I think, 5 tunes in one day, maybe 5 or 6
that's
tunes.
a lot.
It was, and it's a fantastic record, and not all of the cuts have the same instrumentation. So, I was only on, I think, 5 or 6, whatever it was, how many tunes. And he also used the Abyssinian Church Baptist Choir for things, and it was just a fantastic experience.
Wow, folks. So definitely check out this entire record. I have to sit down and listen to the whole thing because today we're going to play Take the A Train. But the record is called What Headphones. Again, we'll be playing Take the A Train here on WDNA 88.9 FM. And if there's anything I grasp from that story, it's this. Give your records to your heroes. You never know what will happen, because had you not given him that record, who knows?
You're right.
All right, folks, here goes. Take the A Train, Richard Todd on that one. Andre Previn's record, What Headphones? The next tune that we'll be playing is.
Well, it's called When the Sun Comes Out. One of the things that I've been very blessed with in my career was to have worked with so many great names that I grew up listening to. Like I got to work with Frank Sinatra. I was Barbra Streisand's principal horn for 20 years. Chicago. I got a call one day to go do a record date for Chicago. And it turned out that the record was Chicago 17, which probably was their best selling recording ever. They had really four, I think, huge hits off of that record. and it was Pete Cetera's last record before he left to go on a solo career. And the arranger for the tune that I did was a gentleman by the name of Jeremy Lubbock, who was the big name in record arranging in the 1970s, 80s, and 90s. He was really one of the giants. And he liked what I did, and I ended up being always his first call for whoever he was doing arrangements for, which would have included Madonna.
Wow.
God, I'm trying to remember how many. Aerosmith, Sean Combs, otherwise known as P. Diddy or Puff Daddy or whatever he's known as these days. Um, and I asked him one day when I was about to do my first record. I said, I would you be interested in doing an arrangement for me? And he said, yeah. He liked what I did, and we were friends. And he had done this fantastic piece for the Manhattan Transfer for basically 4 voices and Fender Rhodes electric piano. And I said, I really love that chart you did for the Manhattan Transfer. Would you do something like that for me? And we ended up doing Harold Arlen's great song, When the Sun Comes Out. And the arrangement that he made ended up being for 8 horn parts and electric piano, and I recorded them all. And it may be one of the greatest charts that that Jeremy ever did. And he certainly pushed the boundaries of what the horn's range could be with this particular cut. He really did something special.
Wow, I'm very much looking forward to listening to it. That's When the Sun Comes Out, folks, here on 88.9 FM. Afterwards, we'll be taking a short break, but don't go anywhere. We have more in the studio live today with Richard Todd. That was absolutely beautiful. 8-part horns on this track, ladies and gentlemen. That was When the Sun Comes Out, Richard Todd, arranged by Jeremy Lubbock. Up next, we have more music for you off of the record With a Twist. And as you said, this is one of your very own compositions.
Yes, it is.
This one is entitled Central Avenue Strut.
This is my homage to the jazz scene in Los Angeles in the 1950s. Central Avenue was really the headquarters of where the jazz scene was, like the Village in Manhattan. So this is my tip of my hat to my hometown and their amazing musicians that were there.
You heard it here, folks. Central Avenue Strut, a composition by Richard Todd himself. And as we're sitting in the studio and talking about the tracks and listening to them together, what really captured me about this music, aside from the arrangements, the wonderful playing, is the sound. The sound. And so I had to ask, who mixed this record?
Well, the team was Frank Wolf and Fred Vogler, and Frank has been a recording engineer in Los Angeles for decades, and he's recorded so many great pop artists, not the least of which is Randy Newman, who he's recorded all of the film scores that Randy has done over the past 30 years. So anybody, if you ever went and saw Toy Story or any kind of that the sound of the orchestra and those things is because of the way that Frank Wolf recorded them. And Fred Vogler was also producer and half owner of the record company, and he produced the sound. He was a sound engineer for the Los Angeles Philharmonic and everything that went on at the Hollywood Bowl. And he also created the sound system that exists outside of the New World Symphony Center in Miami Beach. All of the outdoor speakers and so on that accompanies their wall broadcasts.
So essentially, folks, if there's a record that's touched your soul, whether it's Pixar, whether it's any of the great pop artists, Michael Jackson, if it's touched your soul, Richard Todd has probably played on it at this point. But we're going to continue the show. And this next one is entitled A Song After Sundown.
And the story behind this one, I'm
yes,
sorry, I got to tell this story
because
this is too important. I was very dear friends with a gentleman by the name of David Raxon. And one may or may not know the name David Raxon, but he wrote the motion picture score for a movie, Laura. He also wrote another score for a picture called The Bad and the Beautiful that starred Kirk Douglas and Lana Turner. And David Raxon was an amazingly brilliant individual that moved from New York to Los Angeles in around 1930 to help Charlie Chaplin orchestrate and arrange the score for his movie Modern Times. And he was very busy in the industry for a long time. And one of the things that I wanted to do on each one of the records that I did was to get one of the old guard, one of the great old names, to do something for a record of mine. I got Jeremy Lubbock to do something on my first record. I got the great David Rose, who was Henry Mancini's mentor and wrote the music for Bonanza and Little House on the Prairie and God knows how many. He wrote The Stripper. And he did a song for me called Our Waltz. And on this record, I got David Raxon to take a tune from his movie called Too Late Blues, which was a movie starring Bobby Darin as a jazz trumpet player. And he took his tune, A Song After Sundown, and made this arrangement for me and conducted it. And it was one of the last things he did before he passed away.
That is very special. I'm so glad that we have the privilege and the honor to share this music with all the WDNA listeners today on today's Frost Jazz Hour. This one is entitled A Song After Sundown. Race off of Richard Todd's record. And we have the privilege and the honor of having him in the studio with us today. We also have Alberto de la Reguera, who is actually the producer of the Frost Jazz Hour. So even though it may look like I'm running the show, well, actually,
You are running the show, my dear.
oh, thank you.
I'm just having a good time listening to you guys. I want to say that's a privilege having you in the show.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
As a matter of fact, and we'll have you for the third time.
I'm honored.
If you say yes, but that's going to be next semester, so you can relax a little bit.
Oh, good. I won't have to get nervous for a while.
Yes, it really is such a privilege and an honor to have you in the studio with us today. And the special thing about you, just as an artist and as an individual, is the fact that the music that you've written, the music you've played on, the artists you've collaborated with, it's the kind of music that really connects with everyone. You know, you're an artist that has a foot in every single world, whether it's the jazz world, classical, playing on John Williams. You said maybe like 30 to 40 movies and collaborating with all these artists. So what was it like when you would travel to LA? Because as you were saying, it's really the epicenter for all of these recording work. So what was it like when you were in the studio, let's say, with someone like Michael Jackson?
Well, I remember, I did do a project with Michael Jackson. I think it was a record called History, I think. I can't remember the name of the project, but Elmer Bernstein would write orchestral music for Michael. I believe it started with his video for Thriller. There was, if you ever saw the short film form of the song Thriller, there was a lot of orchestral writing in it. And Elmer Bernstein did that. And I used to play films with Elmer, and so I got called for a record date with Michael Jackson, and we were recording some of the orchestral music for History, and Michael was in the booth. And Elmer asked me to go in and listen to a playback with him. And there's Michael just standing right there, and Elmer, and so it's three of us, Elmer and Michael and myself, just standing there, and just it was a real pleasure. One of the things about being able to be, if you will, on the inside, is that you meet all of these people away from the public eye, and it is a much different experience because there are no bodyguards, there are none of that kind of, no paparazzi. And they know why you're there. They know you're there because you're really good at what you do, and they're very appreciative. I have signed LPs on my wall from Elton John and Peter Gabriel and all of these people that I recorded. Phil Collins that I recorded with, and it's like hanging out and talking with them like they're just kind of normal people, which in fact they are.
Yeah, definitely. And at the end of the day, it's so special that what you brought to the table is the music.
I think that if anybody had told me when I was a student at school that I would have been able to be sitting here in this radio station today talking about things that I had done, I think I probably would have told them that they were out of their mind. And which is one of the reasons why I'm at Frost, because the way that the Frost School teaches music, the types of things that they expose their students to, is the type of career that I've led, that I've had, that I've been fortunate enough to have. And so we can speak from a number of different topics, if you will. And to have been able to say that I got to play a concerto that was composed for me at Carnegie Hall, and to stand on the stage at the Hollywood Bowl in front of 12,000 people and play a Mozart concerto, or play a Strauss concerto, and also play an arrangement of Nature Boy, which I arranged with my friend Brad Warner, and to have played in clubs with people like Billy Childs and John Clayton and Peter Erskine and Alan Pasqua, and the list just goes on and on and on. it's been a dream career. And now I'm fortunate at a place that allows me to continue to create and to do the kinds of things that can help inspire the next generation to continue and do more and better than me.
And to share your stories.
Yep.
So if you had one piece of advice, I'm sure you get this question tons of times, but of course, aside from the work ethic that is crucial to being a musician, what is one thing you say really led you down this path, and what can you say to help maybe another aspiring artist?
There's an old adage in the freelance world, take everything and work it out later.
Ah, okay.
But just practice and be true to yourself. Listen to yourself and listen to what you're doing and make sure that you, I tell my students, the only thing that I demand of them, I said, I don't have many demands of you, but the one demand and expectation that you have is that you look at yourself in the mirror at the end of the day and be able to answer the question if whether or not you gave it your best shot today.
I love that. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Richard Todd with us here on today's Frost Jazz Hour. We have just about one more minute left, so we're going to play you a short snippet of Days of Wine and Roses, and we'll head off listening to BBC News.
At 88.9 FM, you're tuned to WDNA Miami. Public radio. Redefined.